It's embedded in the brain. You never forget it, never. The German bombers used to come over in huge raids, 10, 20 bombers at a time, drop their bombs. Sirens would go all over England, and you'd all run for the cellars and go down into the cellars, put gas masks on, because they were using gas in those days as well as bombs. We all had to put these gas, and I used to hate the damn things because it used to suffocate, but you breathe through the snorkel thing, so you didn't get the gas. And when the all clear went, you'd all come back up again, and there wouldn't be a building left standing. It'd be the odd plane nose first into the ground, but just rubble, nothing left standing. They had these barrage balloons, a huge balloon like an airship, and they were tied to a rope, and when the German bombers come in to drop the bombs, they'd fly into the steel cord and break their wing off, propeller or whatever, and they used to make them crash. We used to spend half our life in the bloody cellars, but I often thought since those days that you would have only need one bomb to go down, find its way down the steps into the cellars, and we could have blown all us kids to a million pieces, I always dreaded that, seeing a bomb and not hearing the whistle, because I knew my number was going to be up. So they had the bombing raid, we were all split up. They put me in a convent, Catholic convent, and told me that my parents were all killed. The nuns were cruel. They were bloody cruel. An example, as a treatment and punishment, they used to stand you in the corner naked in the front of the classroom, and they used to throw you into stinging nettles as a punishment. And of course you just all break out with all this bloody burning from the... Look, I'd never talk Catholic again, but they were really cruel. That was some of their tortures. And another one was, I don't know why, but they threw rotten geese eggs at you and you stunk. Oh, the smell was out of this world. I couldn't go near anybody. It just wouldn't leave your skin. No matter how much you bath, it stunk of rotten eggshells. Oh, I never forgot that. And they were looking for people to populate Australia, because in those days Australia had very little population. You had a choice of India, Africa or Australia, and I put my hand up for Australia because it came out as an Australian citizen on the old SS Ormond. An old ship, took us 3 weeks to come out here through the Suez Canal and that, but when I got off at Fremantle, I saw butter and I couldn't believe it. I just made a pick of myself with butter because I'd never seen it. All we had in England was lard, animal fat, and I can remember crawling around with my hands and knees just picking up every crumb I could off the floor because you were that hungry, you just couldn't get food. Most of the food went out to the troops. They were bad years, but they've always stuck in your memory. And I came out here to Australia to a college up at Tarden, Agricultural College. And then one day one of the brothers came up and said, how would you like to meet your brothers? I said, I wouldn't want to be a Christian brother, thanks. No, thank you. And they said, no, he's a blood relative. I said, I haven't got any brothers. Anyway, next thing I know is the government paid the fare to Melbourne to see my brothers. when I got off the plane I saw Michael, that's my eldest brother. I thought I was looking at myself in the mirror. I couldn't believe he wasn't my brother. Robert was a bit different, but I think after all those years of separation, they came to Australia not knowing I was in Australia, and they took me into Woodend, into their family fold, and there was an old aunt there, Aunt Jane, and she said, "Oh yes, they're your brothers." She said, "I remember you." She said, "I used to be your nanny." This girl, well, she was close to her 80s, and she said, in fact, I'll prove the fact that I used to change your nappies and everything. She says, "You've got a birthmark on your bum." Well, I said, "Yes, I have." She said, "Yeah, well, I put many a nappy on your butt in the young days, you know." You just can't believe what a war does to families, how it can split you up, and yet suddenly you all come together again, and in a completely different country. You just can't believe it. I went up to Tarden, Mullawalk. It was a Catholic college, and they taught you all the agriculture about horses and cows and sheep and shearing and all that. So my job was to go around all the windmills. There was 40 of them, I think, and check and make sure the fan was going and all that sort of thing, that the water was pumping because of all the sheep. And one day I went to open the gate, and as I was trying to get off, the horse decided to go over, so it went over and it rolled right over the top of me. I broke 3 ribs, and I was in agony trying to get back to the station. I somehow managed to get myself back up onto the horse, and they were hard days in those days. Then I thought, oh, it's time I changed, because I was doing a little bit mechanical. I was never trained. I was doing mechanical work on an old Austin truck, and I got to learn all the parts. I came down here, and the bloke said, "Gee, you're good with your hands." He said, "Come on, we'll do a course," and they put me through a mechanics course, and I became a fully fledged mechanic for Holden. After I'd been working for Holden for a while, I went to Toyota, worked for them for a while, and then I'm going into Qantas, so I went to Qantas and was a mechanic for Qantas, and my fares were free. Because I worked for them, I used to get free trips to India, South Africa, England, wherever I wanted to go. And of all the places I've been, I think the prettiest place was the South Island in New Zealand. It is, everywhere you look, there's moss growing on, and it's long moss growing on rocks, cliffs, all green, green's green, beautiful spot. But I worked for the government research station on the Ord River, and it's like an inland sea. It's such a big town. I don't know whether you've ever been there or not. And they reticulate the whole of the northwest with it. It's got pumps out everywhere. And one day I had an old FE car, and they said, the research station manager said, "Would you mind picking up Mr. Whitlam?" I said, "Gough Whitlam?" He said, "Yeah, Gough Whitlam, the Prime Minister." I said, "Why?" I said, "Where is he?" He said, "He's just coming by plane into the Wyndham Airport, and we want to bring him out to the research station." So I drove Gough Whitlam out to the research station. I felt real proud of him, driving a Prime Minister around. I had an FE car then, and mine was the only good looking clean car around to drive the Prime Minister around. But oh no, I could tell stories all day about the Northwest. This was just one big block, and it was just artichokes and broad beans. That's all it was. And we built whatever's here, we built and put there. you know, all these, I grew all these from slips. They reckon you can't grow them from slips, but I said, well, I'm going to prove you wrong. One day I went down, I said, Mum, gee, I've got an orange there as big as a kid's head. She said, I can't have. I said, I have. So I picked the orange. It was on a tree next to your block there, and I picked that orange and put my daughter against it, and it was equally as big as what her head was, as you can see. It's the biggest orange I've ever grown. I wrote to the Guinness Book of Records and tried to get the biggest orange, and they said, oh, sorry, you've been beaten by somebody in California who's got a bigger one. We had an old Austin Champ, and we used to drive it all through the scrub. No roads. Sometimes you'd fall in a cave, the front wheel would disappear down into a cave, and we'd get it back out. Anyway, we came up accidentally by this Pinnacles. And I said to Mum, God, let's get the Pix People. They were a magazine in those days. And we rang her up and said, look, we've just found a Pinnacle Desert, where the pinnacles just stand in the desert like no man's. And I said, oh yeah, well, we'll come over and photograph them. But in those days, the little tiny pinnacles this high, all over the place. And when you walked, it was like walking on China. Before jets came in, everything was done by the old DC-3, and we flew everywhere, all over the northwest, and I sat at this back door dropping dingo baits. And when I worked for Qantas, the manager there said, oh, you really love the old DC-3. I said, well, I used to sit at that back door, my legs dangling. I said it wouldn't be allowed today, and I used to chuck the dog baits out. And he was the manager of Qantas, and he said, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. He said, I'll make you up a gold, pure gold DC-3 you can have in remembrance of those days. And he was the manager of Qantas, and he made up that photograph for me. Oh, that's a story of its own. I was in the army then, and this chap called Bill Turner, he said to me one day, come on, let's go up for a dance. I said, gee, I couldn't dance in a fit. And he says, don't worry, just come up and stand at the door. Anyway, I went up to the dance hall in Bendigo, and Mum was there, and Bill Turner says to her, would you like to dance with him? And she said, oh yeah. I said, oh, I can't dance. And Mum says, well, put your feet on top of mine and just follow me around the dance hall. It's the first time I ever had a dance. Oh dear.
You went back again, didn't you? There's our life.
"60 years of life together, married in Victoria, settled in WA, countless memories, so many laughs, unconditional and endless love.
Love like no other."
Yeah, no, it's a good life. I never regretted it. I mean, I worked hard. Hello? Hello? Who's that? A couple of years.